Welcome back to Soul Soil Wellness. I know it has been a while since the last episode. I feel like it's been probably close to a year, um, but I'm really happy to be back with the podcast. Um, I have some really, really exciting things in store for you this season. And so, yeah, let's get into it. Today's episode is all about returning to God and finding your way back when you feel distant. And before we get into it, let me just mention I have my notes here, and I'm only going to mention it just a moment of clarity, of transparency. I in the past was kind of self conscious about using notes. Um, I feel like when last year when I was editing the podcast, I noticed for some episodes there were really important points that I had failed to even mention, totally forgot in the moment of filming. And that's really frustrating. Sometimes I was able to go back and insert, but sometimes I wasn't. So this year I decided I'm just going to bring my notes on, use my notes, because, when I get a message to share, it's always a message from God, a divine download. And I don't want to leave things out that could be really, really important for someone to hear just because my ego isn't, just wants me to look like I have it all in my head. So I have my notes here, as you can see, so that I won't forget anything. And when I was praying about it, just, saying, God, I don't know what people are going to think if I don't have notes. One of the things that he brought to my memory was every Sunday, my pastor is up there preaching with notes. Not only that, but he gives us a copy of the notes before the service so that we can follow along also. And I have never thought less of him for using notes. If anything, I have appreciated that, especially giving them, to us to kind of look through and to have. Um, so I'm over myself. Let's go ahead and get into this episode, okay? So, returning to God when you feel distant. Now, first, I just want to start by asking, you know, is that something that you can relate to? It's like this feeling of like, I love him, I believe in him, but something just feels off. You know, maybe your prayers, they just don't really feel the same. They don't really feel like you're connecting. You're meaning to spend time with God, but, you know, something else comes up and you just never get around to it. Um, and sometimes you don't even know when the distance started, but at some point you may have that small voice in the back of your head that asks, how can I come back from this? Like you've been distant for so long. So how do you get back? Well, the main thing I want you to know is that you're not too far gone. Okay. And this conversation today is not about striving harder and doing more to get back into God's good graces. We're talking about something much gentler, and that's about returning to God. So I want to kind of talk about what that distance can feel like at times. Because I think that one of the biggest misconceptions is that when we drift from God, it has to be some type of big rebellion or some type of that you're making some big destructive choices, and that's just not how it is all the time. Not for all of us, okay? Sometimes distance means just you're just going through your day and you're not making time for him at all. Maybe you say a quick prayer, but you're not really connecting. Um, Sometimes you just feel spiritually tired. You might spend more time scrolling through your phone, through social media, than what you're spending in stillness with God. And sometimes it's not intentional. Our life gets full. Life be life, and as they say. Your mind gets busy, your heart gets heavy, and before you know it, you look up and realize that, wow, I feel far from God. It's not because you stopped loving him, it's because you stopped being with him. You stopped spending time with him. The distance isn't always from a place of rebellion. Sometimes it's just a drift. I remember when I was a kid, my family used to spend time with another family from our church. And, it was me and my sister, and they had three kids also. One of their kids, we actually were in the same grade, and their kids were probably closer to my age in general anyway than my sister. My sister was the youngest. But in any case, we still hang out sometimes, our families. And one day we went to the Sound because I was raised on the Outer Banks, and we have the ocean there, but we also have the Sound. So one day our families went to the Sound to hang out, and that their family brought a raft, like some type of little raft that you could float on. So I got in the raft, and we were all there having fun. And next thing you know, I look up, and I've drifted way, way further than what I had intended on drifting, to the point that I was afraid when I realized how far I had drifted out. Now, you know, fortunately, their oldest son, which is the one who I went to school with, he was like, "I'll get her," and he ran out there so bravely and got me back to the shore. But the point of that story is how I just drifted, and with all those people there, I'm there, we're all having fun, all these other kids. Somehow, I just didn't notice, and no one else noticed. My mom was there; she didn't notice how far I had drifted. But then all of a sudden, I just realized, whoa. I turned around and realized, whoa, I am way, way too far out here, and I got afraid. Okay. So sometimes that's how our relationship with God is. We busy ourselves, and next thing you know, it's like, wow, I didn't even realize I haven't even opened my Bible all week. It happens. Okay. And let's talk about why it happens. And we're going to talk about it without judgment because we don't judge here. Okay. Now, one reason why we drift is because life gets heavy. Sometimes we're just tired. Okay. We carry a lot. We have responsibilities, we have emotions, stress, disappointment. It's a lot. And instead of running to God, you end up just trying to make it through the day. And it's not because you don't need him, it's because you just don't have the energy to reach for him. So that's one reason why we drift. Another reason is shame. Shame makes us hide. And this is a big one because maybe you haven't been consistent. Maybe you're not proud of some of the choices that you've made. And maybe you've been avoiding God. And so now it just feels awkward to come back to him. So instead of running towards him, you decide to just pull back even more. And then that causes that distance to grow. And then a third reason why we drift is just from subtle distractions. Excuse me. Not everything that pulls you away from God is bad. Okay. Sometimes it's just stuff. Not everything is bad. It can be your phone, it could be your hectic schedule. Maybe you're just honed in, focused on your goals. It can be routines that you just get caught up in, and slowly, without realizing it, God goes from being the central part of your life to being more like an occasional part of your life. And there goes the distance. Now, even though you may feel distant from God, he has never been distant from you. And I want you to think about the story of the prodigal son. Luke 15, verses 11 through 32. If you haven't read it, read it. And even if you have read it, read it again, because something I noticed is that depending on what's going on in my life, sometimes it can be chapters and verses that I know, but when I read them again, they just kind of hit different. So read it, Luke 15, 11 through 32. But basically, what happens, the son leaves. He asks for his part of I believe it's an inheritance, and he leaves. Okay, he drifts. and his choices take him far from home. He's living it up. So he finds himself in a place where he has ran through his money. He doesn't have any. And on top of that, the land that he goes to, there's like a famine. So he's found himself in a position of being pretty much a servant. But it's so bad. He's working, but he's not being fed. He actually wants to eat what my granddaddy used to call what he gave his pigs slop, because that's how hungry he is. He's feeding the pigs this slop, as my granddad used to call it, and he's wanting to eat some of it himself because he's so hungry. But then he has this moment of clarity where he's like, "Whoa, my dad has servants, and my dad's servants work really hard. They do this kind of work too, but at least my dad feeds them good." And so he's like, "Hey, let me just let me go back home." That moment of clarity. It's kind of like when I was on the raft and having fun with everyone, and next thing you know, it's like that moment of clarity is like, whoa, I'm way out here. This is not where I wanted to be. Yeah, there's always that moment of clarity that comes. So he goes back home, ready to beg for his father to allow him to be a servant. He's willing to be a servant and to work his way back into his father's good graces. But when he gets back, first of all, his father does not hesitate. His father doesn't question him. He doesn't make him earn his way back. The Bible says that the father ran to him. And the father was watching him from afar. He saw him coming. He was watching. He was already waiting. He was ready to receive him. When the son finally could get a word in, and he asked the dad, "Hey, I can be a servant. I'm willing to work my way up, whatever, whatever." The dad is like, "Get my son a robe, a ring, and some sandals, and let's slaughter the fattest calf we have, and let's have a party. Let's celebrate my son coming home." The son didn't have to work his way back into anything. The father put him right back where he was, like nothing happened. Okay? And that's how God is with you. God is not sitting back disappointed, waiting for you to get it together. He's waiting for you with open arms. In James 4:8, it says, "Draw near to God, and he will draw near to you." Not after fixing everything, not after you become consistent again. Just draw near. So let's talk about some ways, some simple ways, some real ways to return to God. One, come honestly, not perfectly. You don't need the right words. You don't need long, elaborate prayers. You can simply say, "God, I feel distant. I want to come back." That's enough. God responds to your honesty, not performance. Now, number two, start small and consistent. And this is where a lot of people get stuck because they feel like they have to jump back in with these long, quiet times and deep Bible studies, full routines. But returning to God can start with just 5 minutes. Okay. One scripture, one prayer. Um, that's it. Just a moment of stillness. And just remember that consistency is always better than intensity. So just be consistent. Spend time. Number three, let go of the need to feel something, because sometimes when you come back, you won't have the that emotional connection right away, because it just takes time, and it's okay not to feel an emotional connection, because your relationship with God is not built on feelings; it's built on connection. So even if it feels quiet, just keep showing up. Number four, rebuild rhythm, not pressure. So instead of trying to fix everything, just focus on creating a new rhythm. Okay? Maybe that means time with God in the morning, prayer during the midday, gratitude in the evening before bed. Just just do it. Just be present. That's it. Not doesn't have to be perfect, just be present. And then number 5, stay even when it feels dry. And this is where depth is built because it's easy to feel connected when things are going good. But real relationship is built when you stay when things aren't so good. Okay. This is where your roots grow deeper. And for some of you, part of returning might also look like finding its way back into community and maybe even church. Not out of pressure, but because we're not meant to walk this journey alone. But if that feels like it's too much right now, just start with God and He'll meet you right where you are. Okay, so I just want you to take a moment here to just pause and just take a deep breath in through the nose and out of the mouth. And with that breath, I want you to gently ask yourself, where have I felt distant from God? And what is one small way that I can return today? Not tomorrow, not next week, today. Okay? Now, if you've been feeling distant, I want you to really hear clearly. Hear this. You are not too far gone, okay? You're not behind. You haven't missed your moment with God. Remember that returning to Him is not about starting over. You're not starting over. You're coming home, okay? You're coming home and He's going to restore you. You don't have to earn your way back into His graces. His mercy is still available to you right now. In Lamentations 3:22 and 23, it says, His mercies are new every morning. That means that today is a fresh start. And it's not because you earned it, it's because He loves you. So it's not about starting over. Come home. Now, if this episode spoke to you, share it with someone else who you may feel like would benefit from it. And if you're on a journey of returning to God, just know that you don't have to navigate the journey alone. I'll meet you right back here next time. Have a blessed week.